What if I told you that the most important AI launch of 2025 didn't happen on a billion-dollar stage? There was no charismatic CEO in a black turtleneck, no flashy keynote, no orchestrated media blitz. Instead, on August 20th, 2025, one of the most powerful AI models ever created just appeared. It was dropped quietly onto the open-source platform Hugging Face, announced with little more than a whisper on the Chinese social media app WeChat. But in the world of AI, a whisper can trigger an earthquake. Within hours, the global developer community found it, and DeepSeek v3.1 became the fourth most popular model on the entire platform. This wasn't just a new model, it was a statement, a radical, high-stakes bet that could redefine the entire AI arms race. DeepSeek just threw down a gauntlet. They took their fast conversational chat model and their powerful genius-level reasoning model, and they fused them together into a single, unified, hybrid brain. This flies in the face of what competitors like Qwen are doing, who argue that you must keep these models separate to avoid making them dumber. So the billion-dollar question is, did DeepSeek's massive gamble pay off? Is this unified architecture the blueprint for the future of AI agents, a more efficient path to artificial general intelligence? Or is it a catastrophic misstep that creates a jack of all trades, but a master of none? Today, on AI in Action, we're going deep. We'll deconstruct the architecture of this hybrid machine, uncover the secret geopolitical strategy hidden in its code, and deliver the final verdict on its performance. You're going to want to stick around for this one because the answer isn't what you think. All right, let's set the stage. The AI industry is currently split by a fundamental debate. As these models get smarter, how do we make them the most capable? Do we build a specialist, like a world-class surgeon who only performs one type of operation? Or do we build a generalist, a brilliant polymath who can do it all? For a while, the specialist camp seemed to be winning. Take Qwen, one of DeepSeek's biggest rivals. They recently updated their models and made a very deliberate choice to separate their thinking and non-thinking models. Their reasoning? They found that combining them led to, and I quote, serious degradation in overall response quality. In their view, fine-tuning a model to be a friendly chatbot blunts its sharp logical edge, and training it for hardcore reasoning makes it sound like a robot. Their solution is a toolbox. You pick the right model for the right job, one for coding, one for chatting, one for reasoning. And then there's DeepSeek. They saw this fork in the road and took the other path. They bet everything on the hybrid approach. With v3.1, they've created a single, cohesive entity. It's not a toolbox, it's a Swiss Army knife. One tool designed to adapt to any situation. This is what we're calling the hybrid Gambit. It's a belief that a single, unified model is ultimately more efficient, easier for developers to work with, and a more direct path toward creating the holy grail of AI, truly autonomous agents. The question is, did they engineer a masterpiece, or have they compromised too much? To find out, we need to look under the hood. To understand if the Gambit worked, you first have to appreciate the sheer engineering prowess we're dealing with. Let's break down this hybrid machine, piece by piece. First, the raw power. On paper, DeepSeek v3.1 is an absolute monster. It contains a staggering 685 billion parameters. In simple terms, you can think of parameters as the neural connections in a brain. The more you have, the more knowledge and nuance the model can store. For comparison, models considered large just a year or two ago had a fraction of this. But here's the clever part. Running a 685 billion parameter model for every single query would be astronomically expensive and slow. So DeepSeek uses an architecture called Mixture of Experts, or MoE. Imagine you have a giant company with 685 world-class experts on staff. When a problem comes in, you don't call all 685 of them into a meeting. That would be chaos. Instead, a router, a manager, looks at the problem and says, okay, for this task, I only need to activate our top 37 experts. That's exactly how DeepSeek v3.1 works. For any given piece of text, it only activates 37 billion of its total parameters. This gives you the incredible knowledge of a massive model, but with the speed and computational cost of a much smaller one. It's the key to making this level of power economically viable. And to top it all off, it has a 128,000 token context window. What does that mean for you? It means the AI can read and remember the equivalent of a 300-page book in a single conversation. You can feed it an entire technical manual and ask questions, or have it analyze a massive code base without it ever forgetting what you were talking about. But the real innovation, the heart of the hybrid Gambit, is how it unifies its thinking. Previous versions of DeepSeek forced developers to choose. Do you want the fast, responsive chat model or the slower, more powerful reasoning model? V3.1 says you can have both. In one model, it has two distinct operational modes, think and non-think. Think of it like a high-performance car. The non-think mode is your city driving mode. It's fuel-efficient, responsive, and gives you a direct answer quickly. This is what you use for general chat. But when you need to solve a complex problem, you switch to think mode. This is the track mode. It revs the engine, engages all the performance systems, and takes a more deliberative, step-by-step approach to reach the solution. Technically, this is controlled through the API. A developer can send a query to the DeepSeek chat endpoint for a quick response, or the DeepSeek reasoner endpoint to engage the model's deeper faculties. Inside the model's brain, this is triggered by special tokens, think and think. When the model sees the think token, it knows it needs to generate an internal monologue, a chain of thought, before producing the final answer. It literally thinks before it speaks. This gives it incredible flexibility, all from a single set of weights. Now, buried deep within the technical report is a detail that most people would scroll right past. But it might just be the most important part of this whole story. It's a detail with massive geopolitical implications. The model was trained using a data format called UE8MO FP8. Now stay with me. FP8, or 8-bit floating point, is a low-precision number format. Think of it like using shorthand instead of writing out every word. It allows for much faster calculations, which means you can train and run your AI models faster and with less energy. It's all about efficiency. But why this specific format? Community analysis has revealed something incredible. This data format appears to be tailor-made for the next generation of domestically produced Chinese AI chips. Let's connect the dots. For years, the United States has been tightening its grip on technology exports, specifically restricting China's access to the top-tier AI chips from companies like NVIDIA that have powered this entire revolution. In response, China has poured billions into becoming technologically self-reliant. DeepSeek's choice of FP8 isn't just about efficiency. It's a strategic masterstroke in a technological chess match. They are building their most advanced models to run perfectly on the hardware they know they will have access to, regardless of what happens with US foreign policy. They are decoupling their progress from their rivals' supply chains. This isn't just a technical detail, it's a calculated act of technological sovereignty. So we have this incredibly powerful, geopolitically savvy hybrid model. But DeepSeek's decision forces us to confront that central debate. Are they on the right side of history? Their entire strategy hinges on one big idea, the agent era. An AI agent is more than a chatbot. It's an AI that can do things. It can perform complex, multi-step tasks. Imagine you ask an AI agent, research the top 3 competitors to our new product, analyze their market share, and draft a presentation summarizing your findings. Now, think about how the 2 different philosophies would handle this. In the specialist world, your agent system would have to make a whole series of calls to different models. It would call a chat model to understand your request. Then it might call a reasoning model to formulate a plan. Then, a tool use model to browse the web. Then back to the reasoning model to analyze the data. And finally, back to the chat model to write the summary. It's a complex, clunky process, like trying to build a house by hiring a different contractor for every single nail you hammer. It introduces latency and complexity. Now look at the hybrid approach. The agent interacts with a single API. That one model can internally switch between its conversational mode, its reasoning mode, and its tool-using mode. It's streamlined, it's elegant. It's like having one master builder who can handle the plumbing, the electricity, and the foundation all by themselves. This is DeepSeek's bet. They are looking past today's chatbots and building the foundational architecture for tomorrow's autonomous agents. They're willing to accept potential minor trade-offs in performance today for a massive architectural advantage tomorrow. But that brings us to the moment of truth. The theory is brilliant, the strategy is bold, but did it actually work? The verdict on DeepSeek v3.1 is not a simple yes or no. It's a story of towering strengths and glaring weaknesses. A story of deliberate trade-offs. Let's start with the wins, because in some areas, this model isn't just an improvement, it's a revolution. And the biggest win is in coding. We're looking at the AIDR benchmark. This isn't some simple coding quiz. It's a brutal test that evaluates an AI's ability to solve real-world, complex programming tasks. For months, the king of this benchmark was Claude Opus 4, a top-tier, closed-source model from Anthropic that costs a premium. DeepSeek v3.1 achieved a pass rate of 71.6%. Claude Opus 4 scored 70.6%. Open-source model, just dethroned of the best and most expensive coding models on the planet. But that's not even the full story. The real disruption happens when you look at the price. To run the entire AIDR test suite on Claude Opus, it cost about $68. To run the exact same test on DeepSeek v3.1, it cost $1.01. Let me say that again. $1 versus $68. That is a performance per dollar improvement of nearly 68 times. This is an extinction-level event for expensive closed-source coding assistants. DeepSeek has been nicknamed the Pinduoduo of AI after the Chinese e-commerce giant famous for its low-price strategy. They have successfully democratized access to elite-level AI coding help. For general knowledge, it's also a beast, scoring an 88.5% on the MLU benchmark, putting it right in the same league as GPT-4o and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. On paper, it's a home run, a grand slam. But benchmarks aren't everything. They don't capture the full user experience. And when you dive into the forums on Reddit, where developers are putting this model through its paces, a very different, more critical story emerges. The consensus is that infusing these two models, DeepSeek v3.1 gained a powerful analytical mind, but it may have lost its soul. The first and most common criticism is about its creative and conversational abilities. Users are describing its creative writing as stiff, bad, and prone to high-slop cliché output. The conversational style that people loved in previous versions is gone, replaced by what some call a no-bullshit approach. It's direct, but it's not flowy. For anyone using AI for role-playing, brainstorming, or creative writing, this is a major downgrade. Second, it has developed a new and, frankly, annoying personality. It's incredibly verbose and has a tendency to be sycophantic. It will start responses with phrases like, "Excellent question, of course," even if you ask it something simple. It feels like the fine-tuning process optimized for a certain definition of helpfulness that comes across as unnatural and repetitive. And finally, even in its area of strength, coding, its dominance isn't absolute. While it conquered the AIDR benchmark, on another important software engineering test called S2E Bench, the specialized Qwen 3 coder model still beats it slightly. This gives a point back to the specialist camp, proving that a model laser-focused on one task can still come out on top. This highlights a growing problem in AI, the gap between benchmarks and reality. A model can be trained to ace a standardized test, but in doing so, develop quirks that make it less pleasant or effective for real-world, subjective tasks. DeepSeek v3.1 is the poster child for this phenomenon. It's demonstrably smarter on paper, but in practice it can feel less capable. That is the price of their hybrid Gambit. So after all of that, did DeepSeek's Gambit pay off? The answer is that it succeeded perfectly in what it set out to do, but that goal came with a sacrifice. By unifying its architecture, DeepSeek has created an undisputed champion in cost-effective coding and a powerhouse of reasoning. They have successfully built a platform that is structurally and strategically primed for the coming era of AI agents. In this, it is a monumental success. But in achieving that, they traded away the creative flair and conversational polish that made their previous models so beloved. The fine-tuning that honed its incredible benchmark scores seems to have sanded down the stylistic edges that many users valued. This release, therefore, shouldn't be seen as an endpoint. It should be seen as a declaration of intent. DeepSeek is betting that the future of AI isn't about writing a better poem or being a more eloquent chatbot. The future is about building capable, autonomous agents that can reason, plan, and act in the digital world. Their unified hybrid architecture is the foundation they have laid for that future. And the release of DeepSeek v3.1 forces the entire AI industry, and all of us, to confront a fundamental question about where we're headed. As we race towards more powerful intelligence, what are we willing to trade for it? Is the future a toolbox full of specialists, or is it hybrid? DeepSeek has placed its bet. Now, the rest of the world has to respond. But I want to know what you think. Is this hybrid approach the right move? Have you tried DeepSeek v3.1, and what has your experience been? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay on the cutting edge of the AI arms race and get deep analysis like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for AI in action. Thanks for watching.